Hey everyone, this is Monica Staneda, founder of Feng Shui for Us, creator of the 9 Steps to Feng Shui system. And I am here with my friend Adelita. Adelita is a friend from Ecuador, where I was born and raised. And she is very much into environmentalist and reforestation. And I've been talking to you a lot in the spring about how important trees are for Feng Shui wealth. Trees are actually the symbol of wealth. The tree and the healthy forest are the symbols for wealth. And if you understand how a tree works and how a tree communicates with the rest of the forest, then you're going to understand wealth. And if you don't, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to understand wealth. You're not going to be able to grow your wealth. And so I myself, there's something I call tree karma. And it is that little bit of guilt that all people who are conscious of environmental needs feel every time they use paper, every time they get new furniture, every time they make an addition to the home, because of all the wood that is coming in. And you think about it, so many trees are cut down to produce the things that we use. And so that little bit of guilt, that little bit of karma, that so many trees are being cut down for you to have that book you love to read, or for you to have a beautiful piece of furniture you just added to your dining room or your living room, that little bit of guilt drains your ability to generate wealth. And so I believe in paying tree karma. Paying tree karma means that you are going to plant more trees than were used to build your house, and more trees than are cut every year for you to just live your life. And if you do that, you're going to see that your wealth is going to improve, because you're going to be in harmony with the earth and in harmony with the universe. So, hi Adelita.
Hi Moni, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great, and I'm really excited about this, talking about trees, which is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and in Feng Shui, trees are considered the people of the vegetable world. And so in Feng Shui, we consider there are two connectors of heaven and earth. And so humans connect heaven to earth, and trees connect earth to heaven. And so the way we operate according to Feng Shui is we get our ideas, our inspiration from heaven. We get motivated through our human emotions, and then we commit to action. We produce action in the physical world, and that is what changes the world. Action changes the world. Not just ideas, not just emotions, but actions. Actions are what changes the world. Now, in Feng Shui also, trees are super important because trees are believed to sort of release a report card of how the planet is doing to heaven, to the heavens. And so if you think about it, trees, they absorb nutrients and water. They pull those nutrients and water up the tree, and then they release vapor into the environment. And so this is how they release things into heaven, is the symbolism. So trees are considered very important, and we both love trees. And we're going to share with you today what I have been doing to pay my tree karma with Adelita's help, and also how you can start paying your tree karma. So we're going to share all that information today. And so Adelita, she and I, we've known each other since the 3rd grade. And so we went to this school where you went to the same building from kindergarten to the day you graduated as a senior. And we stayed in touch, all these years, during the college years and afterwards, even after I moved to the United States. And so tell us, Adelita, I know you purchased property next to the National Reserve in Ecuador. And so I would like to know what motivated you and your husband to make this investment to get this property right next to that national park.
What you just said, that action is what makes changes. Not just ideas, but action. That's exactly what we wanted to do. We were always into nature. We always loved nature. I guess that was very obvious when I was at school. And we wanted to take action and to do something by ourselves in a way to pay off what we have gotten, because nature has been a major component of our formation as a person.
And you guys met in nature, right? You were both mountain climbers?
We were both mountain climbers, and that's how we met. And more we got into that. We started learning more about conservation and about birds. And that's what motivated us to take action and do something. And we bought this property so that we can help in a way protect what is near us, protect the forest, and turn pasture land into, bring it back to forest. And being the property we have next to this private conservation reserve, we turned into a buffer zone, to also help protect the boundaries of the property.
That's awesome. So by buying this property, you're kind of like creating a filter, like a protection between the forest and
expanding the boundary in a way, and restoring what for decades was pasturing land. And that pasturing land 50 years ago, 60 years ago, was forest. And the primary forest was cut to feed cattle. So now it's restoring, and I would say with your help too, because some of your trees are there. So we bought the property 7 years ago, and the difference is now beginning to show. So that's
awesome.
Yeah.
When we started talking about it, I was really feeling this tree karma, and I was feeling such like a heavy conscience, from thinking about all the trees that get cut just so we can have a plentiful life. And I wanted to plant trees, but I had been looking at a number of organizations that plant trees around the world, and some of them didn't have the best reputation. So I wanted to make sure that my money went to planting trees in areas where trees were really needed. And I wanted to restore original forests, which is what you're doing. And also in Ecuador, there's a lot of biodiversity, right? And isn't this reserve related to a species of hummingbird?
Yeah, the reserve that's neighboring us was created to protect the critically endangered hummingbird, which is called the black-breasted pavlik. The pavlik lives only in that region in our province, Pichincha, close to Quito, and somewhere else in Imbabura. So it has a very restricted area of habitat. And if its habitat continues to be destroyed, then of course the bird is more and more endangered. But by protecting these birds, you also protect all the species, not only of animals, but also of plants that live in the forest, as well as the watersheds. For example, Yanacocha, the reserve that's next to us, from there is from part of the water that provides the supply to Quito, to the north of Quito, comes from.
Wow. That's good to know. And I don't know if you know, but in North America, there's only 2 types of hummingbirds.
Yep.
Yeah, and Ecuador alone, Ecuador is like about the size of the state of Colorado, and we have like over 120 species of hummingbirds.
Yes, we have 136, if I'm not wrong. One that was recently described last year. And that's a big family among the bird family, but among all, we have more than 1,500 species of birds in all the country.
Yeah, 1,500 species, over 1,500 species of birds. I was always fascinated by hummingbirds when I was a child. And also, when I was a child, I had heard that the indigenous people believe that hummingbirds bring messages from the spirit world. Yep. And so there was, there was a code that the indigenous people of Ecuador used, because there's hummingbirds that the length of the beak meant something. It was a short beak or a long beak. If the beak was straight or it was curved, that meant something. If the tail was in one piece or split in two, the length of the tail, the color. So it was like a very complex message system from the spirit world. And I think, so when I talked to Adelita and I heard about this project of reforestation, planting trees to help the hummingbird, I was sold. And so what we decided to do is we chose 5 species, 5, right, Adelita? 5 species of trees that are original of the area, because we wanted to help restore the original forest. Do you know the names of the trees?
Well, I would tell you the local names. We planted alisos, that are supposed to hold the soil together to avoid landslides, for example. We also planted quichuars and pumamakis, which are traditional from the cloud forest, I mean native to the cloud forest. And we also planted one that's my favorite, that's called capulicillo. And what I like about that tree particularly is that at some point in the year, the leaves turn its colors. Not exactly as fall, but of course for me, it reminds me of fall in the US. So that's what I like about that. I have some connection with fall. So
You
that's
lived
why.
in the United States for a while, right?
Yeah, we lived there for
For
3 years.
years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years ago. That's incredible. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's where everything started in a way, because we met one of my daughter's teachers who is a bird watcher, and he always took his students into bird walks, first around the school and then to a nature preserve in the Philadelphia area. And that's how we started to know that there were birds also in Ecuador, you know. And when we came back, we started exploring that world. And I would say that also birds were the ones that got us into this motivation to do conservation and to buy the property so that we can also protect bird species. So it's, like it has the effect of an umbrella, that by doing one thing, you just cover many things.
Yeah.
So that's
And
how
I
everything.
admire and respect you and your husband, that you're making this investment. And so, because it's so important, like I recently read an article that with all the problems that are coming with climate change and water levels rising, there's nothing more important than planting trees, because one of the things trees do is trees lift the water, which also in feng shui is the symbolism of lifting money into wealth. Water means money in feng shui. But just for survival purposes, as the waters rise, it's so important to restore forests. It's so important to plant trees. So I think, like everybody should try to plant trees in their own property. But see, my property has more trees than it can handle, pretty much. So I knew I couldn't plant trees in my property. And so when I heard that Adelita was doing it, I was like, Adelita, I want to send you money so you can plant trees in my name. And she's like, okay, how many do you want? And I'm like, hey, but let's try and do 100 a year. And she had no clue. I remember you had no clue as to how much it was costing you to plant trees. So
because it's not just, the plant itself, but you have to consider other costs, the maintenance and transportation, and sometimes, especially at the altitude that they are planted, they are above 10,000 feet. So the cold can harm them. So actually, some of the trees died, and we had to replace them at some point.
I remember we had a bad frost.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the trees didn't do well. And so I wanted to do that. So I sent Adelita, I'm like, okay, you have homework to find out how much each tree is costing you. And we figure out how much each tree costs. And so I'm like, okay, every year I'm going to plant 100 trees. So we've done 200 trees yet, and I want to do at least 500. And so, and of course, I know Adelita, we've been, really close for, I don't know, I don't want to say our age, but since the third grade,
more than 30
40 years, we've known each other. And so I totally trust you. And I'm like, here's my money, plant some trees. But of course, because you don't yet have a foundation, although I know this is something that you want to do in the future, your planting trees through you is not yet tax deductible, right? So tell us how could people in the United States and abroad in other countries, how could they contribute? How could they start contributing money to plant trees in this area?
Okay, our story with conservation has two parts. The first part in which we try to do it ourselves without having a clue. And then when we were invited to join a conservation foundation here in Ecuador, I would say one of the biggest, Fundación Jocotoco. And that was our door to do exactly what we wanted to do. So Antonio and I are now working pro bono for Jocotoco. And now instead of working in our tiny 13-hectare reserve, we are working to protect more than 20,000 hectares of forest.
You know, I can't remember how that translates to acres. Do you know?
More than 45,000 acres.
Okay, I'm glad you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we are helping and supporting Hokotoco with their conservation work. So instead of just doing reforestation projects, there are all sorts of projects among the 13 reserves that are spread in Ecuador. So now we are creating, Hokotoco is creating a Hokotoco USA to have a 501c3. So once that's established, that is in the process, it's almost there. Donations, tax-deductible donations can be received towards Hokotoco and reforestation projects.
And you're going to share in a, I think I need to.
The website, it's www.hokotoco.org.
Okay, and tell me about, you had told me there's a way that you can donate and you get an app and you can actually see the trees grow that you have planted.
We are working on that project. The idea is that you would adopt a tree and that tree will be monitored. So you will be given images and the exact GPS points where the tree was planted. So that should be implemented soon. Now we are, what we've done so far, of course, it's not exactly reforestation, but we just started a project of monitoring the forest, in which with cell phones you have live data of the sounds that are happening. So for example, chainsaws or shots that you can hear, so our park guards can take action immediately and go and see what's happening in the forest. But in terms of reforestation, that would be something similar, but it's in the process of being established, not yet functional completely.
But if I understand correctly, people can already contribute, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, donations can be made, and you can tell towards which project it can go. Of course, reforestation is one that takes place in 4 of our reserves and different areas in the south, in the coast, in Ayampe, here in Yanacocha, in the reserve that's next to ours. There's a big project now we will plant, because one of the native trees in that area is the polylepis, what we know as the paper tree. I don't know if you remember that kills the bark.
Yeah.
So that forest years ago was cut to coal.
Wow.
The primary forest was cut to do that. So of course it disappeared, and now it's a big area that we are planning to restore, to reforest with these native species of trees.
Yeah, and also, a lot of people don't know that the area with Ecuador is the area with the most biodiversity in the whole world. So it's super important to protect the biodiversity in Ecuador, where we're from.
Yeah. Especially the coastal forest, the Chocó forest in the western region. It's less than 5% left now.
That's so sad. We're working to correct that, right? And so we're going to be providing all the links that you're going to need, and where you can go to start paying your tree karma. Don't think about it as a donation. Think about it as paying your tree karma, and you're going to see how blessed you are going to be. Because when you're in tune with nature and you're in alignment with the universal law, everything lines up for you and things start going great. So that's super important. And so we're going to give you all the instructions on how you can donate or pay your tree karma, and so that the money goes to this project. We're going to be able to provide that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Adelita, about the project?
I think that what you say about wealth, we can feel that. I mean, we feel that the more we give to nature, the more we get into our lives.
Yeah, because you're in business, right? And your business is doing great.
Yep. I mean, Antonio has his business, and that's what helps us work pro bono for the organization. But I mean, we have more than what we need, and it's really a great feeling to know that we are doing something for the planet, for nature, and for who's coming after us too. You know, ensuring a world, a healthy world. That's what we want, so
Yeah.
that so the next generations can enjoy the species that we have been able to enjoy and experience nature the way we have been really blessed to experience.
That is awesome, Adelita. Thank you so much for sharing, for meeting with me and talk about this. It's just so important. I've written a bunch of articles on how wealth connects with trees and forests and how important it is. I've even, I have an article that has gone viral, which is about how you need to make friends with a tree and sit under a tree as often as you can, because it's true. There's so many stories about religious figures and people who had great ideas while sitting under a tree, and there's a good reason for that. So in Feng Shui, you close the circuit between heaven and earth when you sit under the tree. So when you're under a tree, you're going to get your best ideas, and it's true. And so whenever I feel like in my business, where I'm trying to make a decision and I'm not sure which way to go, I just go sit under my tree with a notebook, and the best ideas come to me. And it's not always, I go out there thinking about a solution to one problem, and then other things come to me that are even more important. And I really do think that if we start thinking of trees as people, the whole world is going to change. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and I really appreciate all what you're doing and working in this project together, being you there and being me here. It's really great. And well, you'll have to come and take your trees by yourself.
So. I need to do that. And I'm gonna, in the article that's gonna go with this video, I'm gonna have pictures of how we are putting trees back and restoring the forest. So that's gonna be pretty cool. Thank you so much. Bye bye.